Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the NoDQ.com live recap of WWE NXT for July the 20th, 2021. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live in the chat room or watching on demand. I appreciate your viewership and support very much. With that being said, let's get right down to this recap. We had a video package showing what happened last week on NXT with Karrion Kross choking out Samoa Joe. They used The End Is Here, the old video package from Armageddon. I love that song, by the way. Great song for a wrestling video package, no doubt about it. We had Samoa Joe, who was not in fancy clothes. He rushed down to the ring wearing a t-shirt, and he said TikTok, he's gonna smash Karrion Kross's clock. William Regal stormed down to the ring very upset that Joe is calling out Karrion Kross. Regal said Joe cannot do that. Joe said he was provoked. And Regal responded by saying that Kross put his hands on Samoa Joe, the referee, not Samoa Joe, the official, and thus it doesn't count. Joe was still wanting to get his hands on Kross and said that Kross needs to be put under control. And Regal responded by saying that all hell will not be breaking loose and things must be solved peacefully. Joe said by the end of the night he was going to settle things, but could not guarantee that they would end peacefully. So Joe did great with this segment, so did Regal, but I'm thinking to myself, Karrion Kross lost to Jeff Hardy in under 2 minutes. Why do I even care about this? And James in the chat room says Kross lost his credibility 24 hours ago. 24 little hours. How a difference a day makes, as the late, great, ravishing Rick Rude said when he went on Nitro the same night that he was on a taped episode of Monday Night Raw. We had a promo from Zoe Lee to hype up her NXT Women's Championship opportunity against Raquel Gonzalez. There were subtitles. She spoke in Chinese. Said this was the most important match of her life and she will make history. And then Raquel Gonzalez cut a promo, said she's not scared, and when she gets through with Zoe Lee, there will be nobody left. We had our first match of the evening, which was the Diamond Mine against Bobby Fish and Kushida in a tag team match. Pretty standard tag team match here. And before the match could even get started, Fish and Kushida, they attacked Diamond Mine from behind. And early on in the match, Fish got distracted, got slammed into the apron, and then Fish was worked over for a while. Kushida got the hot tag, put on the hoverboard lock to Tyler Rust, and scored the submission victory. About as standard as an NXT match that we've seen. It was good, but pretty straightforward. We had LA Knight and Cameron Grimes arriving, and Drake Maverick wanted to help out Grimy because there was something like 6 or 7 bags. For some reason, Eli Drake, that's why I get him confused. LA Knight, for some reason, had a ton of bags that he brought to the arena for the show. So anyways, Drake Maverick wanted to help Grimy, and LA Knight was not happy about this and challenged Drake to a match. Mohammed says, good late evening, Aaron. Happy Tuesday. NXT was really interested. Not going to lie with everyone that is going on tonight. Well, thank you for that. Darren says, NXT was a very entertaining show. Darren says the luggage was empty, though you could hear it when it dropped. Whoops. And by the way, NXT 36 will be the next takeover, and that will be taking place on August 22nd. As reported, it will be the night after SummerSlam in Las Vegas, but at this time we don't know where it's going to be. There was a voiceover in the video package saying Capitol Wrestling Center, but that's an old clip. Might not necessarily be at Capitol Wrestling Center, and honestly, I hope they do a bigger venue for this since it's TakeOver. And it's still weird now because Raw and SmackDown are back on the road doing shows with 10,000 plus people, and we have the cruiserweight, not the cruiserweight, the Capitol Wrestling Center, might as well be the Cruiserweight Center, and you have the fans all wearing masks with the barriers. It's just very strange that they're still strict with the COVID rules for NXT, but for the main roster, you know, it's all hands on deck and we're gonna do whatever. So yeah, kind of interesting, but I am hopeful we'll get TakeOver at a bigger venue. We had Frankie Monet in a showcase match. I'm not even sure who her opponent was. Jessie Kamei was at ringside. She's aligned with Frankie now. Robert Stone came down to the ring and wanted to be part of the action, I guess. Mandy Rose also wanted to be part of the action and watch what was going on. She got on the commentary desk and watched the match. Frankie Monet picked up the victory fairly easily. So yeah, just a showcase match for her. Alberto Gomez with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Alberto. Says, do you think Karrion Kross will be all right after what happened on Raw? It keeps boggling my mind. Man, anything else could have been, anybody could have been in his spot to face Jeff Hardy. Yeah, you're right about that, Alberto. And I guess he can be rehabbed, but it might take a while for people to forget about this Jeff Hardy thing. And what's going to happen with Kross? Is he on Raw next week, or is he staying in NXT now until he drops the title? Like, I'm still not even sure what's going on with Kross exactly, or if he's going to be pulling double duty for the time being. But we will talk more about Kross here in just a few minutes. All right, we had Kyle O'Reilly backstage confronting Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory, and Kyle challenged Austin to a match, and the challenge was accepted, and Gargano said that Austin Theory needs to go it alone. And Austin wasn't too thrilled about this, but he did go out there for his match. He got some offense, he did some trash talking, but before long, Kyle O'Reilly was able to make his comeback, came off the top with the double knees, put on his submission, and Austin Theory tapped out. And you have to wonder how much longer Austin Theory will be in NXT. He was on a SmackDown Dark match last week in Houston. Makes you wonder if he'll be coming back to the main roster. He was there briefly, if you remember, at the start of the pandemic, and then he went back to NXT. And Kyle also did not let go of the submission right away, so adding a little bit of insult to injury. Match was fine, but again, pretty standard, what you would expect on any given NXT episode. We had Wade Barrett doing a sit-down interview with Bronson Reed, and Bronson was asked about the North American title loss, and Reed said he needs to keep pushing forward and fight harder than ever, and he's got a match with Adam Cole next week. He said he's going to finish the job and take care of Adam Cole once and for all. My guess is that's probably not going to happen. Bronson Reed's another guy who looks to be getting called up or demoted, as some might say, to the main roster. I suspect that Adam Cole will win that match next week. Darren says, can you see Kyle O'Reilly going far on the main roster? As talented as he is, probably not. I know some people think he could be like the second coming of Daniel Bryan, but I'm not sure. I could see him getting pushed a little bit, and then he'll end up being a 24/7 division guy. You know, they'll put him in the opening match, and he'll do some comedy, but yeah, he's probably one of those guys better off staying in NXT. I just don't know if he can overcome the obstacles. You know, Daniel Bryan was an exception to the rule. Daniel Bryan succeeded when everything was stacked against him to succeed, and he still managed to become a huge star in WWE. We had Legado del Fantasma come into the ring for a Mariachi Madness musical performance, but unfortunately we did not get it. I was looking forward to it. I wanted to hear it, but I guess Santos Escobar had to be a good heel here and say that the fans don't deserve it. He's not going to lower himself to entertain the people. They are not worth it as far as he's concerned. And he said they're not going to be embarrassing themselves like Hit Row. This led to Hit Row interrupting the segment. They called the mariachi music trash, and you had the big guy, forgot his name, but he talked about being bigger than all the Legado del Fantasma guys when he was in 6th grade. And Isaiah Swerve Scott said he's going to make Santos his bitch. Then they got into the ring, and we had a big breakout between these guys, and Swerve Scott got the guitar that was out there for the performance but never used, and he swung the guitar at Santos. Santos escaped, but unfortunately Joaquin Wilde did not get away, and he was surrounded. And by the way, Top Dollar's the big guy. Shame on me for not remembering his name off the top of my head. And the guitar ended up being broken over Wilde's back. So pretty good segment here with these guys. And Colin Andrew in the chat says Phantasma needs a female and do the faction versus faction. Why not? Makes sense to me to do that. I say you gotta even the odds and have a female to go against Hit Row. We had the Way backstage arguing about Dexter Lumis, and no Dexter again on this show. NXT will be on Sci-Fi the next 2 weeks, and they even teased that this is something Dexter Lumis would like, so maybe Dexter returns next week. I mean, they've been moving at a really slow pace with this Dexter Lumis and Indy Hartwell storyline, in my opinion. I mean, like, very slow. So yeah, no Dexter Lumis on this show. And then we had Samoa Joe backstage, you know, just wanting to get his hands on Karrion Kross, and William Regal was trying to calm him down. We had one of the breakout tournament matches. We had Andrew Chase versus Odyssey Jones. And Chase hit a moonsault, got a near fall, but then Jones made a comeback. And Jones was doing a lot of agility moves and showing off his quickness for a guy his size. Very impressive. And he picked up the victory over Chase. Not really surprised there. Jones seems to be a guy that they got high hopes for, and yeah, he could end up being a pretty big deal in NXT. We had MSK backstage issuing an open challenge, basically. They said they'll fight anybody, and then they were about to explain what MSK meant, what it stood for, but then we had Imperium interrupt with a video promo, and then when it was over, we came back to MSK, and they had just finished telling the story. So we still don't know what MSK stands for. And yes, NXT is going to Sci-Fi for the next 2 weeks because of the Olympics. That's why they're being preempted, just like AEW was for the NBA playoffs. We had Pete Dunne and Oney Lorcan challenging Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher for a match, and that will be taking place on next week's NXT. We then had LA Knight, formerly Eli Drake, versus Drake Maverick. Drake got no entrance, which is always concerning. Grimes was out there as the butler, and LA Knight was just distracted because he wanted Grimes to hold up the $1 Million Championship, and He was not paying attention. Maverick came in, rolled up Knight, and scored what I guess you could say the upset victory. And Colin Andrews says that this is a TNA throwback. 3 guys that were in TNA not too long ago, and he's right about that. And after the match was over, Knight attacked Maverick, beat the crap out of him. Grimes tried to stop it, trying to do the right thing. But then Knight said that Grimes needed to hit Drake Maverick, and Grimes refused at first. He tried to leave the ring, and LA Knight stopped him, and he said that Grimes needs to punch Drake Maverick in the face. And this kind of reminded me of when Big Show was forced to knock out Dusty Rhodes, and that was a great segment almost a decade ago. And Grimy was, very distraught, but eventually he reluctantly did it. He punched Drake Maverick in the face. Pretty entertaining stuff here, even if it was very similar to that Big Show Dusty Rhodes angle from all those years ago. And Darren says it's also kind of like Virgil with Ted DiBiase, Virgil being forced to do all these horrible things. We had a car arrive, which was Karrion Kross's car, and Joe was right there, but Joe found out that it was not Karrion Kross in the car. Apparently, Kross was already in the building. We had our main event of the evening, Raquel Gonzalez up against Zoe Lee. Zoe Lee was out there by herself, and they quickly fought on the outside of the ring. Raquel went for a big boot, but she missed, and her foot was caught by the ring post, and Zoe Lee slammed Raquel's foot into the post. And Dakota Kai started to get concerned, but then Raquel did make her big comeback, and then she hit this Vader bomb, which she turned into a senton, and she went for the cover. Zoe Lee kicked out, but then Zoe Lee was not getting up, and pretty much the match just stopped. You had the referee, you had officials checking on her. It looked like Zoe Lee got legitimately hurt. It was very awkward, and did not feel like it was part of the story of the match. And, a lot of time passed with nothing happening, and then finally, I guess, the match was allowed to continue. And what makes me think it was legitimate is they literally went right to the finish. Right when Zoe Lee got up and they continued the match, Raquel hit her finisher and picked up the 1-2-3 victory. So hopefully Zoe Lee is not seriously hurt from that senton. And then after the match was over, Samoa Joe came back to the ring, said there will be a reckoning. He called out Karrion Kross, and Kross appeared on the Titantron, said NXT is his world now. He can go and do whatever he wants, and he cited an example. He showed a laid-out Commissioner William Regal. Regal was attacked by Karrion Kross. Samoa Joe quickly ran to the back to try to get his hands on Kross, but Kross got into his car and sped off, and Joe just screamed in frustration as the show went off the air. Alberto Gomez sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Alberto. Says, no more words theme gives me a sour taste after what happened. And 2, Kross losing via roll-up. 3, Hardy cheating to win. WWE went with this all wrong. Yeah, we're still talking about it. So if you go by Vince Russo logic, it was a success because here we are still discussing it. Johnny Boy with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Johnny. Says, if this is your last NXT review for a bit, thanks for the great reviews. Hope Raw does better with Kross in the coming weeks. Yeah, I hope so too. So yeah, I'm thinking I'm done for the time being with NXT recaps. I will still be recapping TakeOver, all the TakeOver shows, and if something big happens on NXT, I'll either talk about it on the AEW Dynamite recap or on Thursday nights for the No DQ review. If there's a big enough topic, we'll talk about stuff that happened on NXT. Darren says, hey Aaron, do you want a straight up match between Kross and Joe, or would it be better in a steel cage? I mean, I really don't care at this point. So I would say just do a regular match. Like, it doesn't need to be a cage match or anything. I think they could just straight up do a normal match. And, you know, the novelty, there's a novelty with Samoa Joe coming back because he hasn't wrestled, you know, in a year and a half or longer. I think he maybe wrestled in January of 2020. So there's definitely a novelty in Joe's first match back. And you don't need anything else besides that for his first match. So if his first match is against Kross, I think they can just do a straight up, you know, NXT title match or whatever they're going to do. Israel Diaz says Kross is damaged goods after yesterday's show. Can't take Joe and Kross seriously anymore. And Johnny Boy with a $2 super chat says, you sure you want to stop? You have a good turnout. It's actually a pretty decent turnout tonight, but I don't think it's going to sustain for the next 2 weeks at least. But I will not say 100% this is the last one for a while, but I'm thinking it's going to be. I'm thinking I want to take a little bit of a break for a while and see what they do over the next several weeks. Alberto Gomez with a $5 super chat says, I appreciate the effort for trying to reestablish Karrion as a monster by attacking Regal. It's going to take a lot to get his credibility back. Yeah, I mean, it was a fine angle to further Karrion Kross versus Samoa Joe, but yeah, I just kept thinking about Raw. That's the problem with all this, and you know, I can't shake that. Now, in my mind, Karrion Kross is a guy that lost in less than 2 minutes. Like, they killed that uniqueness about him and everything that he had going for himself, that he was this unstoppable force. You know, they kept saying, who can stop Karrion Kross? And I'm thinking, well, Jeff Hardy did it. So that's that. And yeah, I'm curious to see if there's any follow-up on Raw. And it's looking like Joe's going to wrestle. So we'll see what happens with that. The stakes have definitely been raised now with William Regal being attacked by Kross. Or maybe they just kick Kross out of NXT and he gets stripped of the title. I don't know what they're going to do. So they had a pretty interesting cliffhanger. Alberto Gomez with a $2 super chat says, who beats Raquel for the title? Good question. At this point, I'm not sure there's anybody unless you go with Dakota Kai, because this is something kind of resembling Shawn Michaels and Diesel, and they've been slowly teasing it. So I think if anybody does do it, it's Dakota Kai, but I don't know if they're going to break up anytime soon. We might see Raquel go through a few more people, but she even said in that promo that there's going to be nobody left. So yeah, it could end up being Dakota Kai soon, and they end up having their falling out, and then Dakota's the one that eventually beats her for the title. And then Raquel probably goes to the main roster. And yeah, that's the other problem now. Like, NXT's been a good show, but things I've talked about before still are true right now with NXT. I like the quality of everything that they do, but there's a few issues. First of all, it's hard for me to care about these guys. Like, back in the day, here's the thing. Back in the day, one of the fun things about NXT was seeing the guys that you knew were going to be going on to become big stars in WWE, seeing them get their careers going and see them develop. That was part of the fun and the appeal of NXT. But now you got two problems. The first problem is that you have no confidence that these guys are going to be utilized properly. So it's like, why do you bother getting emotionally invested in these guys when they're just gonna fizzle out on the main roster, whether it be Raw or SmackDown? And then the other problem is the guys that are not getting called up, the Johnny Garganos, the Adam Coles. TV characters, they get stale after a while. And, part of the thing about going to a different promotion, or in the case of WWE, going to a different brand, is that you freshen yourself up. You have some new opponents in a new environment. And for guys like Gargano and Adam Cole and Tommaso Ciampa, they've been there for what, like 5 years now? And, it's the same environment. Nothing's really changed with them. And I want to see them against different people. I wanted to see Ciampa versus Randy Orton, or even Ciampa versus Roman Reigns on SmackDown. Like, those are the matches I want to see with those guys. I don't want to see Ciampa versus Imperium or any of those tag teams in NXT right now. I want to see him clashing with the top guys in WWE on Raw or SmackDown. And he's staying there. And, even if he went, would they utilize him properly? Probably not. So it's tough to really be invested in NXT right now. I miss Mauro Ranallo. I know people say, the announcing's not the big attraction. It's the guys in the ring. And I agree, but the announcing does make a difference. So yeah, there's quite a few things, and I'm kind of just down on NXT right now, even though I think they put out a really good product still. It's just hard for me to care about it right now. So I think it's probably best for me to just take a little bit of a break from it for the time being. But I'll continue to report on anything in NXT. And if there is something big, I will make sure to check it out and comment on it. So letter grade wise, I give the show a B-. It was fine. It was a fine show. Nothing really wrong with it. It's just how I feel about NXT right now. I want to be excited for seeing these guys build themselves up and eventually go to the main roster. But now it's hard to really care after what happened to Karrion Kross. To me, that was like the final nail in the coffin. So anyways, Colin Andrew gives it a B. Marshall Leonard with a B++++. MVP Kevin Israel Diaz with B-. Same with The Game Is On 100. Gives it a B- as well. And Marcus Steele Wright says, now you see why Moxley left WWE despite it paying him the best. Yeah, and sometimes money's not everything. Sometimes you gotta be happy with what you're doing. And if you're not happy, might as well take your leave and go somewhere else. And that's what Moxley did. So more power to him. Anyways, guys, thank you all for tuning in. I will be back for the AEW Dynamite recap, and we got the No DQ review coming up on Thursday night. That will be a fun one. That's gonna be a hell of a show because we got a lot of interesting topics coming off of Money in the Bank and Raw. There's definitely no shortage of topics this week, and I think there might be some interesting debates about what's going on. So make sure you guys tune in for those live streams, and then of course SmackDown on Friday, 2 locations. Thank you guys again. Take care, enjoy your week, and I will see you all